esteemed dignitaries present in this august house, principal, teachers, esteemed guests, and my dear students, friends. First, let me confess, neither am I a scholar, nor do I possess scholarship. Why then this audacity on my part? I have a sense of offering anything and everything at the lotus feet of the Supreme Divine Mother. And this sense of surrender is the sole source of my strength and audacity. Actually, I was supposed to be the speaker of the debating competition to be held later today, but the management has asked me to speak few words. So we are holding Cyberfest. We are fostering science and technology. We are fostering information and technology. Why? We are fostering science and technology. We are holding Cyberfest. We are fostering information and technology. In my opinion, we are attempting to master the external world. And it is indeed justified. That we are attempting to master the external world. It is indeed justified. Sri Aurobindo says, we have three business. There are three man's business in this universe. And what are those three business? He says, man is dear to affirm himself. Man is dear to affirm himself in the universe. That is his first business, but not the last business. That is his first business. But also to evolve. I have to evolve also. Not only the mastering the external world, but I have to evolve myself. And finally, I have to exceed myself. What does it mean? Exceeding oneself, exceeding myself, surpassing myself? Today I am Naro. One day I have to become Narottam. And finally, I have to become Narayan. This is what India declares. India has the audacity. India says man can even become Brahman. But then India also says, if you want to be the master of this external world, if you want to master the external world, first you have to be the self-ruler. India says, as there are two words. If you want to be the master of external world, that is to call Samrat. If you are attempting to become first. And what India says, let me quote Sri Aurobindo again. The man who most finds and lives from the inner self can most embrace the universe and become one with it. Then become one with it. The Swarat, independent, self-possessed and self-ruler, can most be the Samrat, possessor and shaper of the world in which he lives, can most to grow one with all in the Atman. Then we are attempting to, or we are fostering, we are holding Cyberfest, we are holding information technology. It is indeed justified. But we must also be aware of what is within us. Who are we? What is stored within our being? What is latent within our being? India says, let me quote Sri Aurobindo here again, an infinite energy. Artificial intelligence is, after all, limited intelligence. It is not infinite energy. India says an infinite energy. You may call it Prakriti, Maya or Shakti. Itself and the insect, the animal, the man are in their phenomenal existence merely more or less efficient adhara of this energy. We are then efficient adhara of this infinite energy. And he says, we are each of us a dynamo. And by dynamo, what we are trying to mean? We are each of us a dynamo into which waves of that energy have been generated and stored and are being perpetually conserved, used up, and replenished. So we will definitely foster information technology. We will definitely foster information technology, artificial intelligence. But at the same time, we have to be capable of manifesting only latent powers within us. Otherwise, what will happen? Otherwise, humanity may be defeated soon. Humanities may be defeated soon by its own discovery. So this is the first thing I want to say. Then Vivekananda says, what is education? Vivekananda says, manifestation of perfection already in man. Education is nothing but the manifestation of perfection already in man. So we are to manifest the perfection already in us. Why? Why we are to manifest perfection within us? Sri Aurobindo says, we are all looking for a perfected world. But he says a perfected world cannot be created by man or composed of men who are themselves imperfect. So perfection is the agenda. And that is why Vivekananda, 100 years ago, insisting on manifestation of perfection already within us. So then Sri Aurobindo says, there are three man's continual quest. By all these our external activities, humanity is actually seeking for three things. What are those three things? First, we are seeking for a goal of life. Then the second one is, we are seeking for a practice of perfection. And thirdly, we are seeking for a law of conduct, which has to be rational as well as binding. India offers all these three things, which science has been science is still not been able to give us these three things. A goal of life, a practice of perfection, and a law of conduct which is rational yet binding. And what India says, what should be our goal of life, you may accept it, you may throw it away. That is up to your wisdom. But what science could not provide, India provides. India says, says, eva angsha sanatana. One I will become one day Narayan. From Nara to Naruttam, then Naruttam to Narayan is the human journey. This is the sense of the premasodic words. Asatuma sadgamaya, tamasuma jyotirgamaya, mritturma amritam gamaya. This amritam gamaya is the sense of becoming Narayan. In Assam, Jyoti Prasad Tagarwala was saying the same thing in a different words. He was saying, Tore mure alu kore jatra, ami palu jibanor ortho obhinav. This mritturma amritam gamaya is the jibanor ortho obhinav. So that is why we are seeking for these three things. And why we are so much insisting on this perfection? Because Sri Aurobindo says, even one man's perfection can even change the world. Even one man's perfection can even change the world. And that is why whole Indian pedagogy is consisting of three things basically. Three things. First, number one, India was never concerned for subjects, for the mastery of our subject. The first element of ancient India's education was not subject. It was directed towards student. Subject was not the concern of the ancient India. It was the student. So the first element of the three characteristics of India's vision of a pedagogy was, first one is methodized organization of life towards its fulfillment. I have to be capable of fulfilling my life. Life has to be fulfilled. Not the subject. Life has to be fulfilled. Life is paramount. And this second element was not subject but integral knowledge. Not subject but integral knowledge. Again, integral knowledge includes three things. First one is knowledge about the self, which the modern university does not regard. We are trying to educate a psychological being without having any regard to psychology of man. What an irony. We are daring to educate a psychological being. Yet, the modern scientific education across the world have no regard for human psychology. But ancient India says integral knowledge means three things. First one is knowledge about the self. Second element was knowledge about the world. Knowledge about the world includes your chemistry, physics, mathematics, biology, political science, economics, etc. And thirdly, knowledge about the ultimate reality. This was the second characteristics of ancient India's pedagogy. And what was the third? Expression and manifestation of perfection and latent potentialities within the being. So these are the six things. Methodized organization of life towards its fulfillment, knowledge about the self, knowledge about the ultimate reality, knowledge about the world, manifestation of perfection, and the expression of the latent potentialities within the being. But we will continue to foster information technology. We will continue to foster or celebrate cyberface. But at the same time, we will also attempt to manifest the infinite energy, infinite power, infinite capabilities latent within the being. Otherwise, soon humanity will be defeated by its own discovery. And then Vivekananda says, information is not education. So let me conclude by quoting two things. Then what should be the true education or the chief objective of education? Let me quote Sri Aurobindo again. He says, because there is a genius within. There is a genius within. India says all knowledge is within. Whether knowledge about political science, whether knowledge even about artificial intelligence. India has the audacity to declare all knowledge is within. But you will not believe in India because it is said by India. But do you know, you can search it right now on Google. In the year 1996, UNESCO has published its last educational document on education. And the committee was chaired by not an Indian. The committee was chaired by Jacques Delors, who is not an Indian. You will be astonished. You will be amazed. Do you know what is the very title of this document? What India has been saying through millenniums. India has been continuously saying that all knowledge is within. All knowledge is within. Now in the year 1996, just 29 years ago, UNESCO has declared emphatically. UNESCO says, learning the treasure within. Learning the treasure within. Jacques Delors has identified 4 pillars of education. First one is, he says, learning to know. Second one is learning to do. Third one is learning to be. And the fourth one is learning to live together. Now, what was the vision of ancient India's education in the words of Sri Aurobindo? It was almost verbatim. It was almost verbatim. So Jacques Delors says in the UNESCO document, 4 pillars of education: learning to be, learning to know, learning to do, learning to be, and learning to live together. Now, in the page number 174 of Sri Aurobindo's Foundations of Indian Culture, what he says, and which was published 100 years ago. And in the 1996, Jacques Delors, chairman of UNESCO, has directly borrowed these 3 things from Sri Aurobindo's writings only. You will find it in the page number 174 of his magnum opus on Indian culture, Foundations of Indian Culture, where Sri Aurobindo writes, the student life was framed, referring to the Gurukulasram, he was saying all these things. He says, the student life was framed to lay the groundwork of what the man had to know, do, and be. It was exact verbatim. And what India has been saying through millenniums, that all knowledge is within you. Vedanta says all knowledge is within you. So knowledge is not to be acquired. Knowledge is to be evoked. Knowledge is to be evoked from within. And therefore, education is not an outside-inside process. Education is an inside-outside process. And that is why, let me conclude by quoting one thing. Then, what should be the chief aim of education? But that does not mean we will continue to foster information technology. We will continue to celebrate Cyberfest. We will continue to foster science and technology because attempting to master the external world is my first business. Because I am to affirm myself first in this universe. Then I have to evolve myself. And finally, I have to exceed myself. And Sri Aurobindo says that every man, whether he is poor or rich, every man has in him something divine, has in him something divine, something his own, which even Napoleon cannot snatch away. I have something my own within my being. So he says every man has in him something divine, something his own, a sense of strength and perfection in however small a sphere which God offers him to take or refuse. The task is to find it, develop it, and use it. The chief aim of education should be to help the growing soul to draw out that in itself which is best and make it perfect for a noble use. So with these few words and with my infinite gratitude to the South Point School, let me conclude here. Thank you.